Grace Sinclair's hand froze on the ledger as the town square erupted in whispers. She turned, heart hammering, and saw him. Eli Turner. 7 years vanished in a breath. He stood 20 feet away in the dusty street, deputy badge glinting on his vest. Dark blonde hair, longer than she remembered. Those same piercing eyes locked on her with an expression that made her stomach drop. He strode forward through the scattered crowd, boots striking the boardwalk with deliberate weight. The whispers grew louder. Grace clutched the ledger tighter, feeling the worn leather dig into her palms. She had known he was back. The whole town had been buzzing about Cedar Bend's new deputy for 3 days. She had told herself she was ready. She had lied. Eli stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the new lines around his eyes, the scar along his jaw she had never seen before. Close enough that her traitorous heart lurched with the memory of his hands in her hair, his mouth on hers, the promises he had whispered before he disappeared without a word. "I need to see those water rights documents," he said. His voice was harder than she remembered, rough with something she could not name. "The bank is filing a complaint. They say Larkspur Ranch has been diverting stream water illegally." The words hit her like a fist. Grace felt the blood drain from her face, then flood back hot with fury. "You have been back 3 days," she said, keeping her voice steady though rage shook through her bones. 3 days, Eli. "And this is what you choose to do?" "I am doing my job," he said flatly. But his jaw tightened, and she saw his hand flex at his side. "If the documents are in order, there is no problem. Show me the claim filing and the survey map." Around them, the crowd pressed closer. Grace saw Mrs. Holloway clutching her basket, eyes bright with scandal hunger. She saw Tom Fletcher from the feed store shaking his head, saw young Bess Martin staring wide-eyed. The whole town was watching. Again, just like 7 years ago, when the scandal broke and Eli vanished, and Grace was left to face the whispers alone. "The documents are at the ranch," Grace said coldly, "where they have always been, legal and filed. If you want to see them, you will have to ride out. But do not pretend this is about water rights, Deputy Turner. We both know why you really came back." She saw something flash in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or anger. His voice dropped lower, meant only for her. "You do not know anything about why I came back, Gracie." The old nickname sliced through her. "Do not call me that," she whispered. "You lost that right when you left." Before he could answer, a shout split the air. A rider thundered into the square, horse-lathered and wild-eyed. He hauled on the reins in front of the sheriff's office, stumbled off the saddle. "Miss Sinclair," he gasped. "It is your supply wagon. Ambushed 2 miles out. Driver is hurt. Whole shipment scattered in the canyon." Grace ran. Eli was beside her before she realized he had moved, matching her stride for stride as they reached their horses. She did not look at him, did not speak, just swung into the saddle and kicked her mare into a gallop. The deputy followed. The canyon was a jagged scar in the prairie, all red rock and shadow. Grace saw the wagon first, tipped on its side, wheels shattered. Crates lay smashed across the trail, grain spilling white into the dust. Her driver, old Samuel, sat propped against a boulder, face gray, left arm soaked with blood. She dropped from the saddle and ran to him. "Samuel," she breathed, pulling off her shawl and pressing it to the wound. "What happened?" "3 riders," Samuel rasped, masked. ran us off the trail. One of them said to tell you the water is not yours. Said worse is coming if you do not sell. Grace felt ice slide down her spine. Eli crouched beside her, hands quick and sure, as he examined the wound. Through and through, he said quietly. Missed the bone. He looked at Samuel. Did you recognize voices? Horses? Anything? Samuel shook his head. They knew what they were doing. Professional. Eli stood, scanning the canyon walls with a lawman's eyes. Grace finished binding Samuel's arm, then rose and walked to the scattered cargo. Grain. Salt. Seed for spring planting. Supplies she had scraped together money to buy, supplies Larkspur Ranch desperately needed. $300 worth. Ruined in the dirt. Her hands curled into fists. The bank wanted her land. They had been circling for months, ever since her father died and left her the ranch along with his debts. She had been fighting them with ledgers and late payments and sheer stubborn will. Now someone was fighting with violence. Eli appeared at her shoulder. I will get Samuel to the doctor, he said. You need to ride back and secure the ranch. If they hit the wagon, they might try the house next. Grace turned on him. Do not tell me what to do on my own land. His jaw set. I am trying to keep you safe. Why? She stepped closer, anger overriding caution. You did not care about keeping me safe 7 years ago. You did not care when you left without a word. When my father died. When the whole town turned on me because of that night. So do not stand here now and pretend you have the right to protect me. Something cracked in his expression. You think I did not care? His voice was rough, almost breaking. You think leaving you was easy? Then why did you do it? The question tore out of her. 7 years of pain behind it. He stared at her, and for a moment she thought he would finally tell her. Then, his face shuddered. I cannot explain. Not yet. But I came back for a reason, Grace. And it was not to hurt you again. Before she could answer, Samuel groaned. Grace moved to help him, and the moment shattered. Eli lifted the old man with surprising gentleness, got him onto a horse. I will take him to Doc Harris, Eli said. You go home. Lock the doors. I will come out tonight to check the property and see those water rights documents. Grace wanted to argue, but Samuel needed help, and the ranch did need securing. She nodded once, stiffly. Fine. But you stay outside, deputy. You are not welcome in my house. She saw the words land like blows. He nodded, face unreadable, and rode off with Samuel. Grace stood alone in the canyon as the sun dropped toward the horizon. Around her lay the wreckage of her supplies and the wreckage of the careful control she had built over 7 years. Eli Turner was back. The man who had kissed her breathless under the cottonwoods. The man who had promised forever. The man who had vanished the morning after her father found them together, and the scandal exploded through Cedar Bend like wildfire. She gathered what she could salvage, loaded it onto her mare, and rode for home. Larkspur Ranch sat in a valley where the creek bent west, surrounded by cottonwoods and prairie rolling gold to the horizon. Her father had built it from nothing, every fence post and barn board a testament to stubborn hope. Now, it was hers. Hers and the bank's, if she could not make the next payment in 3 weeks. Grace stabled her horse, and walked the property as dusk gathered. The barn needed repairs. The north fence was sagging. The vegetable garden was struggling in the dry summer heat. She had 2 ranch hands left, both too old to fight off armed raiders. She had a ledger full of debts and a will full of fire, and it was not enough. She was inside making coffee when she heard hoofbeats. Her hand went to the rifle over the door. Then she recognized the silhouette. Eli, riding in alone, no threat in his posture. She opened the door, but did not invite him in. He dismounted, tied his horse, walked to the porch steps, and stopped. "I checked the perimeter," he said. "No signs of disturbance. But you should have someone watching tonight." "I will manage," Grace said. "With what? 2 old men and a rifle?" His frustration broke through. "Grace, someone just ran your wagon off a cliff. This is not about pride. This is about staying alive." She met his eyes. "Then tell me why you really came back, Eli. Tell me the truth, and maybe I will believe you care." He looked away. "I cannot. Not yet. Then we have nothing to talk about." She stepped back. "The water rights documents are in my father's desk. I will bring them out." She fetched the papers, brought them to the door, handed them over without stepping outside. Eli unfolded them by lantern light, studying the survey map and claim filing. His face changed. "These are solid," he said quietly. "Filed correctly. Boundaries clear. The bank has no case." "I know," Grace said. "That is why they are trying to scare me into selling." He looked up sharply. "You think the bank sent those riders?" "Who else?" "They have been pressuring me for months, offering low prices, hinting at foreclosure. Now my wagon is destroyed, and suddenly you show up asking about water rights on their behalf?" "I am not working for the bank," Eli said, voice hard. "I am trying to find out who is stealing water upstream. 3 ranches have reported shortages this month. Someone is diverting the creek illegally, and the bank thinks it is you, because you are the closest to the bend." Grace stared at him. "I am not stealing water. I barely have enough for my own stock." "I believe you," he said, "which means someone else is doing it and setting you up to take the blame." He folded the documents, handed them back. "I need to ride upstream tomorrow. Check the creek for illegal diversion. If I find proof, it clears you. And if you do not find anything, then I keep looking." He paused. "Grace, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I swear I am not here to hurt you. Let me help." She wanted to slam the door. She wanted to scream at him, make him feel a fraction of the pain he had caused. But the truth was, she needed help. The ranch was failing. Her resources were gone, and someone dangerous wanted her land. "Fine," she said. "Ride upstream. Find your proof. But do not expect me to forgive you, Eli Turner. Some wounds do not heal." She closed the door before he could answer. That night, Grace lay awake listening to the house settle and creak. Through her window, she could see the barn, dark against darker sky. She thought about Eli sleeping in the bunkhouse, or maybe on the porch, watching for trouble. She hated that his presence made her feel safer. Hated that her heart still jumped when he looked at her. Hated that 7 years had done nothing to kill the want. She had been 19 when they met. He had been a drifter working roundup, 24 and rough-edged and beautiful. They had collided like summer lightning, all heat and hunger and reckless joy. Her father had caught them kissing in the barn. The fight had been brutal. Words Grace could still hear in nightmares. Her father calling Eli worthless. Eli shouting back. Grace begging them both to stop. And then, morning. Eli gone. No note. No goodbye. Just an empty bunk and her father's grim satisfaction. 3 months later, her father was thrown from a horse and broke his back. He lingered for weeks, long enough to make her promise to keep the ranch, to never sell, to prove the Sinclair name meant something. He died without apologizing for driving Eli away. Grace buried him and found out the ranch was mortgaged to the breaking point. Morning came cold and clear. Grace woke to find Eli already working, repairing the broken fence rail by the north pasture. She watched from the kitchen window as he stripped off his duster, worked in vest and shirt sleeves, moving with the easy competence of a man who knew ranch labor. Something twisted in her chest. She made breakfast, told herself it was only practical, carried 2 plates outside. Eli looked up as she approached, surprise flickering across his face. She set 1 plate on the fence post without a word. "Thank you," he said quietly. They ate in silence. Then Eli said, "I am riding upstream this morning. You should come. If I find something, you will want to see it firsthand." Grace considered refusing, but he was right. This was her land, her water, her fight. She nodded. They rode north along the creek, following the water through cottonwood groves and open prairie. The morning was still, heat already building. Grace watched Eli from the corner of her eye, hating how familiar his posture in the saddle felt, how easily they rode together. 2 miles upstream, Eli reined in. He dismounted, walked to the creek bank, crouched. Grace joined him. At first she saw nothing unusual. Then Eli pointed. "There. See the brush? It has been cut recently, and the bank is disturbed." He pushed through the willows. Grace followed. On the other side, hidden from casual view, was a crude but effective diversion. A sluice gate channeling water into a side channel that disappeared into a culvert. "This is new construction," Eli said, running his hand over the wood. "Maybe 2 weeks old. And look, the channel runs east, toward Fletcher's property." "Tom Fletcher," Grace said slowly. "He has been after my land for years. Offered to buy it last month." Eli stood, face grim. "He could be stealing water and blaming you to force a sale. Or someone is paying him to do it." Grace felt rage build hot in her chest. "That son of a—" "Wait," Eli said sharply. "We need proof. Solid evidence. I will stake out the site tonight, see if anyone comes to adjust the gate. If we catch them in the act, we have a case." "And what do I do?" Grace demanded. "Sit home and wait?" "You secure the ranch," Eli said. "Because if Fletcher, or whoever is behind this, realizes we found the diversion, they might escalate." Grace wanted to argue, but he was right. She nodded, reluctant. They rode back in tense silence. As they approached Larkspur, Grace saw a buggy in the yard. Her stomach sank. She recognized the sleek black rig. Horace Davenport, the bank manager. Eli's hand dropped to his gun. "Stay behind me," he said. Davenport stood on her porch, perfectly groomed in city clothes that looked absurd against the rough ranch backdrop. "Miss Sinclair," he said smoothly, "I have come with a final offer. The bank is willing to pay $3,500 for Larkspur Ranch, assuming immediate transfer. The land is worth $6,000 at minimum, Grace said coldly. You know it. I know it. This is theft. Davenport smiled without warmth. The land is worth what someone will pay. And given your current difficulties, legal troubles, sabotage incidents, I would say $3,500 is generous. She is not selling, Eli said. His voice was flat, dangerous. And her legal troubles are fabricated. The water rights are clean. Davenport's eyes flicked to Eli, dismissive. Deputy Turner, I heard you were back. Pity your first case is defending a woman with a history of poor judgment. Grace flinched. Eli moved, fast as a snake strike. He was in Davenport's face, close enough that the banker stumbled back. Careful, Eli said softly. That sounded like slander. Davenport recovered, straightened his coat. I merely meant Miss Sinclair has faced unfortunate circumstances. The scandal with her father, the accusations, the financial strain. Surely you remember, Deputy. You were involved in some of those unfortunate circumstances yourself. Eli's fists clenched. Grace stepped between them before blood could be shed. Get off my property, Mr. Davenport. I will make my next payment on time. The ranch is not for sale. Davenport smiled coldly. We shall see. He climbed into his buggy, snapped the reins. As he rolled past, he called back, You have 3 weeks, Miss Sinclair. Not a day more. Grace watched him disappear down the road. Then she turned to Eli. He was breathing hard, fury radiating off him like heat. She had never seen him this close to violence. It should have scared her. Instead, something old and dangerous stirred in her blood. He defended me, she thought, in front of the man who holds my future. He risked his job, his reputation. Why? Eli, she said quietly. He looked at her, and she saw something raw in his face. I am sorry, he said. I should not have lost my temper. But hearing him talk about you like that, like you are nothing. He stopped, turned away. Grace's heart hammered. Say it, she wanted to scream. Tell me why you care. Tell me why you left. Tell me something true. But Eli just shook his head. I need to prepare for tonight's stakeout. I will be back at dusk. He rode off, leaving Grace alone with a tangle of fury and confusion, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. That afternoon, Grace threw herself into work. The barn roof had been leaking for weeks, and storm clouds were building on the horizon. She could not afford to lose hay to rain. She dragged the ladder out, gathered tools, climbed into the stifling heat of the loft. She was halfway through prying up a rotten board when she heard boots on the ladder. Eli's head appeared through the loft opening. What are you doing? He demanded. Fixing the roof, Grace said without looking at him. Before the storm hits. That board is unstable. You should not be up here alone. I have been managing alone for 7 years, she said sharply. I think I can handle a roof. Eli climbed into the loft anyway. Stubborn woman, he muttered. He picked up a hammer. Show me where the worst damage is. For a moment, Grace considered ordering him out. Then, practicality won. She needed help, and he was offering. Fine, she said. The northwest corner. 3 boards need replacing. They worked in tense silence, prying up old wood and fitting new boards. The loft was sweltering, dust thick in the air. Grace was acutely aware of Eli beside her, the flex of his shoulders, the familiar economy of his movements. Sweat darkened his shirt. She forced herself to focus on the work. Then her foot slipped. The rotten board beneath her gave way with a crack. Grace yelped, fell, her hands scrabbling for purchase. Eli lunged, his arm clamped around her waist, hauling her back from the hole. They fell together onto solid flooring, his body breaking her impact. For a heartbeat they lay tangled, Eli beneath her, his arms still locked around her waist. Grace felt his heart slamming against her back, felt his breath hot on her neck. Every nerve ending, lit like fire. "You all right?" Eli rasped. Grace nodded, not trusting her voice. She tried to push up. Eli's arm tightened, just for a second, an unconscious reflex that sent heat flooding through her. Then he released her, hands steadying her as she sat up. Their faces were inches apart. Dust floated golden in the light slanting through the barn walls. Eli's eyes were dark, pupils blown wide. Grace saw the same hunger she felt mirrored there, raw and undeniable. "Gracie," he breathed. "I do not," she whispered. "Do not say it, unless you mean it. Unless you are going to stay this time." Something broke in his expression. "I never wanted to leave." His voice cracked. "I had no choice." "There is always a choice," Grace said. But her anger was crumbling, undermined by the desperate honesty in his face. "No," Eli said. "There was not. Not then." He reached up, his hand hovering near her face, not quite touching. "Your father," he said. "The night he caught us. He told me something. Something I could not ignore." Grace's breath caught. "What did he tell you?" Eli's jaw worked. He said. Eli began, then stopped, shook his head. "He made me believe that staying would destroy you, that the scandal would ruin your life, that the only way to protect you was to leave." "Protect me?" Grace's voice shook. "You left me to face everything alone. The gossip, the shame, my father dying. You think that protected me? I thought it would blow over if I was gone," Eli said roughly. "I thought people would forget. I thought you would be better off without me dragging you down. I was a nobody, Grace. A drifter with no money and no future. Your father was right about that much. You were everything to me," Grace whispered. "And you vanished." "I know," Eli said. His voice was raw. "I know. And I have lived with that every day for 7 years. But I am here now. And I swear to you, I will not leave again. Not unless you tell me to go." The barn seemed to shrink, the air between them electric. Grace could not breathe, could not think, could only feel the terrible, dangerous pull toward him. She should push him away. She should hold on to her anger. But 7 years of loneliness and longing were crushing her resolve. "Why did you really come back?" she asked. "The truth, Eli." He held her gaze. "Because I heard you were in trouble. Because I heard the bank was coming after you. And because I could not stay away anymore." The rain hit the roof in a sudden rush, drumming loud on the fresh boards. Grace stared at him, heart in her throat. Then, before caution could stop her, she closed the distance and kissed him. Eli went rigid with shock, Then he groaned and kissed her back, fierce and desperate. His hand cupped her face, his other arm banding around her waist, pulling her close. Grace melted into him, 7 years of need pouring out in the kiss. He tasted like dust and coffee and memory. His stubble scraped her skin. She did not care. When they finally broke apart, both were shaking. Eli pressed his forehead to hers. "Grace," he breathed. "I am so sorry. For everything. I should have trusted you. Should have fought harder." "Yes," Grace said. "You should have." But her hands were fisted in his vest, holding on. Her anger had not disappeared, but beneath it was something stronger. Belief. Fragile and fierce. He had come back. He was here, and he was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. The storm rolled over the ranch, rain pounding the roof they had just repaired. Eli and Grace sat together in the loft as lightning flashed and thunder shook the walls. They did not speak. They did not need to. The silence was full of everything unsaid, all the broken pieces between them starting, slowly, to fit back together. That night, Eli rode back to the creek diversion. Grace wanted to go with him, but he refused. "Too dangerous," he said. "If shooting starts, I need to know you are safe." She made him promise to come back. He kissed her once, hard and quick, and rode into the dark. Grace paced the house, rifle in hand, listening to the rain taper off and the night settle into uneasy quiet. Hours crawled past. She kept seeing Eli's face in the loft, kept feeling his mouth on hers, kept replaying his words. "I will not leave again. Please," she prayed to no one in particular. Let him keep that promise. Near midnight, hoofbeats. Grace ran to the door, heart in her throat. Eli swung down from the saddle, grim-faced. "I got him," he said. "Tom Fletcher himself, adjusting the gate. I arrested him on the spot. He is in the Cedar Bend jail right now, singing like a canary." Relief flooded her. What did he say? Eli's expression darkened. "He was hired by someone to steal water and frame you. Paid to sabotage your wagon too. But he will not say who hired him. Claims he will be killed if he talks." Grace felt ice in her veins. Whoever is behind this has money and reach. "The bank?" "Maybe," Eli said. "Or someone working with the bank. But we do not have proof yet. Fletcher is scared enough that he might break. I will work on him tomorrow." Grace nodded. Then she stepped closer. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for believing me, for helping." Eli reached out, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was gentle, careful. "I told you," he said. "I am not leaving, no matter what comes." She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. But fear was a cold weight in her chest. If the people behind this were willing to hire thugs and destroy property, what would they do when cornered? As if summoned by her fear, a shout split the night. "Fire!" Grace and Eli spun toward the barn. Flames licked up the far wall, spreading fast in the dry wood. Horror punched through Grace. The horses, the hay, everything. They ran. Eli shouted for the ranch hands. Grace grabbed buckets, her mind blank with terror. The fire roared, hungry and fast. Inside the barn, horses screamed. Eli did not hesitate. He plunged into the smoke. Grace followed, ignoring his shout to stay back. The heat was crushing. She could barely see. She found the first stall, fumbled the latch open, dragged the panicked horse toward the door. Eli was beside her, leading 2 more horses, face streaked with soot. "How many left?" he shouted over the roar. 3, Grace screamed back. They went in again. The roof groaned, timbers cracking. Grace's lungs burned. She found another horse, got it moving, stumbled toward the light. Behind her, something crashed. She turned, saw Eli trapped by a fallen beam, flames leaping closer. No. Grace dropped the horse's lead, ran back. She grabbed the beam, tried to lift. It would not budge. Eli was shouting at her to get out. She ignored him. She braced, heaved with every ounce of strength. The beam shifted an inch, 2. Eli scrambled free. Grace grabbed his arm, hauled him toward the door. They burst into the night, collapsing on the grass as the barn roof caved in with a sound like the end of the world. Grace lay gasping, coughing smoke, her hands blistered. Eli was beside her, alive, breathing. That was all that mattered. The ranch hands managed to save the remaining horses. The barn was gone, a roaring pyre against the black sky. Grace watched it burn and felt something break loose inside her. All her father's work, her livelihood, her future. Ashes. Eli sat up, pulled her into his arms. She did not resist. She buried her face in his shoulder and let the tears come, silent and wrenching. He held her tight, his hand in her hair, his voice rough in her ear. "We will rebuild," he said. "I swear to you, Grace, we will rebuild." Dawn broke gray and cold. The barn was a blackened skeleton. Grace stood before the ruins, numb. Eli stood beside her, equally silent. Around them, the ranch hands salvaged what they could. It was not much. "This was arson," Eli said quietly. "Someone set this deliberately. Same people who sabotaged your wagon." Grace nodded. She felt hollow, scraped clean. "I cannot fight this," she said. "I have no money to rebuild, no way to make the payment. The bank wins." "No," Eli said sharply. He turned her to face him. "You do not give up. Not now." "What choice do I have?" Her voice broke. "They burned my barn, Eli. They tried to kill us. What is next? The house? Me? Then we find them," Eli said. "We find proof, and we destroy them." "How?" Grace demanded. "Fletcher will not talk. We have no witnesses. No evidence." Eli's jaw set. "Then I will make Fletcher talk. And I will dig until I find something. But you have to hold on, Grace. Just a little longer." She wanted to believe him, but exhaustion and despair were crushing her. "I am so tired," she whispered. "I have been fighting so long." "I know," Eli said. His hands framed her face, gentle despite the roughness. "I know. But you are not alone anymore. Do you hear me? You are not alone." Grace looked into his eyes and saw certainty there, fierce and unshakable. She drew a shaking breath. "All right," she said. "All right." We fight. Eli kissed her forehead. That is my girl. They returned to the house. Grace washed the soot from her face, changed into clean clothes, forced herself to eat. Eli left for town to interrogate Fletcher. Grace tried to work, but her hands shook too badly. She sat on the porch instead, watching the horizon, waiting. It was late afternoon when a rider appeared. Not Eli. Grace stood, hand on her rifle. As the figure drew closer, recognition hit like a fist. She knew that silhouette, that horse. Ben Kavanaugh, the man she had been accused of helping 7 years ago. The man whose crime had sparked the scandal that destroyed her reputation. The man who had vanished the same night Eli left. Grace raised the rifle. Ben reined in 20 feet away, hands visible. "Easy, Grace," he called. "I am not here to cause trouble. You have a lot of nerve showing your face here." Grace said coldly. "After what you did." Ben dismounted slowly, wincing. His left arm was bandaged, blood seeping through. "I came to tell you the truth," he said. "About that night. About why Eli left." Grace's heart slammed against her ribs. "Talk fast." Ben walked closer, stopped at the porch steps. 7 years ago, I stole cattle from the Peterson ranch. Got caught. Eli found me hiding in your barn. He could have arrested me. Should have. But I told him if he turned me in, I would swear you helped me plan it. That you were my accomplice. Grace felt the world tilt. What? Ben's face twisted. I was desperate. Facing prison. I thought if I dragged you into it, the law would go easier on me. Eli knew it would destroy you. So he made a deal. He would let me go, keep quiet, and leave town so no one would suspect he was covering for anyone. In exchange, I would keep your name out of it. Grace's hands shook on the rifle. Eli sacrificed his reputation to protect me? He loved you, Ben said simply. Anyone could see it. He left, so you would be safe. Tears burned Grace's eyes. Why are you telling me this now? Because I heard he came back, Ben said. And I heard someone is coming after you. I owe you both the truth. And maybe, he added bitterly, I owe you a chance to fight back. He reached into his saddlebag, pulled out papers. These are bank documents. Proof that Horace Davenport has been buying up land through shell companies, planning to sell it all to the railroad for 10 times what he paid. Your ranch is the last piece he needs. Grace took the papers with shaking hands. This is enough to ruin him. If you get it to the right people, Ben said. I stole it from Davenport's office last night. That is how I got this. He gestured to his wounded arm. His hired men caught me. But I got away. Why help me? Grace asked. Ben smiled sadly. Because 7 years ago, a good man gave up everything to save you. Least I can do is try to make it right. Before Grace could respond, hoofbeats thundered into the yard. Eli, riding fast, face dark with fury. He saw Ben and his gun was out in a heartbeat. You, he snarled. Wait, Grace said, stepping between them. He brought proof. Davenport is behind everything. Eli did not lower the gun. He is a liar and a thief. He told me what happened, Grace said. Why you left? She looked at Eli, tears streaming now. You let everyone think you ran out on me. You let me hate you. To protect me. Eli's face cracked. Grace, you should have told me, she said. But her voice was breaking, and she was moving toward him. You should have trusted me with the truth. I could not risk it, Eli said roughly. If you had known, you would have tried to defend me, and that would have put you in the line of fire. I had to make sure you were safe. You idiot, Grace whispered. She reached him, put her hand on his chest. I was never safe without you. Eli holstered his gun. His arms came around her, crushing her close. I am sorry, he said into her hair. I am so damn sorry. Grace held on tight. Then she pulled back, held up the papers. We can end this now. We can take these to the sheriff. Expose Davenport. He will run, Ben said. Or he will have his men burn this place to the ground with you in it. Then we move fast, Eli said. Tonight, we confront him publicly, with witnesses. Force his hand before he can cover his tracks. Grace looked at the papers. At Eli. At Ben. 3 people broken by secrets and lies, finally armed with truth. All right, she said. Let us finish this. They rode for Cedar Bend as the storm rolled in, thunder booming across the prairie. The plan was simple and dangerous. Confront Davenport at the town meeting that night. Present the evidence in front of the whole town. Force him to confess or flee. Either way, his scheme would collapse. The meeting hall was packed when they arrived. Townspeople gathered to discuss water rights and land disputes. Grace saw the shock ripple through the crowd as she walked in with Eli on one side and Ben Kavanagh on the other. Whispers exploded. Davenport stood at the front, mid-speech. He saw them, and his face went white, then red. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Kavanagh is a wanted man. Not anymore, Eli said. He walked to the front, badge glinting. I am here in my capacity as deputy to present evidence of fraud, theft, and arson. Grace stepped forward, held up the documents. These prove that Horace Davenport has been systematically buying land through fraud, hiring men to sabotage ranches and force sales. My ranch. The Peterson place. The widow McKay's homestead. He planned to sell it all to the railroad and pocket millions. The crowd erupted. Davenport's face twisted. Lies, he spat. Those documents are stolen. Inadmissible. Maybe, Eli said. But they are enough to launch an investigation. And I am betting when the federal marshals start digging, they will find a lot more than stolen papers. Davenport looked around the room, saw the hostility in every face. He made a decision. He bolted for the door. Eli moved to intercept. They collided, grappling. Davenport pulled a derringer. Grace screamed. Eli twisted, slammed Davenport's wrist against the doorframe. The gun fired wild, the shot deafening in the enclosed space. Then, Eli had Davenport on the ground, knee in his back, wrists being cuffed. The room was dead silent. Then Tom Fletcher, still in the crowd from his jail release pending trial, stood up. I will testify, he said hoarsely. Davenport hired me, paid me to sabotage the wagon and set the fire. I have letters. Proof. More voices joined. Others who had been pressured, threatened, bought. The dam broke. Within minutes, Davenport was buried under a mountain of testimony. His empire collapsed in real time. Eli hauled him upright. Horace Davenport, you are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, arson, and attempted murder. He looked at Grace. Anything you want to add? Grace stepped close to Davenport. Her voice was cold and clear. You tried to destroy me. You failed. And now, everyone knows what you are. Davenport said nothing. He was led away in cuffs. The crowd erupted in chatter, relief and vindication mixing. Grace stood in the center of it all, shaking. Eli returned to her side. You all right? No, Grace said honestly. But I will be. He smiled, small and tired. Then he took her hand in front of the whole town and raised it to his lips. I love you, he said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. I loved you 7 years ago. I love you now. And if you will have me, I will spend the rest of my life proving it. Grace's heart cracked open. The whole town was watching. She did not care. Yes, she said. Her voice shook but held strong. Yes, Eli Turner. I will have you. He kissed her there in front of everyone, and the room exploded in cheers. 2 months later, Larkspur Ranch had a new barn, a new shipment of stock, and a new foreman. Eli Turner wore a deputy badge and a wedding ring. Grace Sinclair, now Grace Turner, wore a matching band and a smile that came easier every day. They stood on the porch at sunset, watching the prairie turn gold. The creek ran clean, the water rights secured. The bank, under new management, had restructured her loan with fair terms. Ben Kavanagh had testified against Davenport, received a pardon, and left for Montana to start fresh. The scandal was old news. The town had moved on to new gossip. You know, Grace said, leaning into Eli's side, I never thought I would be happy again. Eli kissed the top of her head. I never thought I deserved to be. Grace turned in his arms, looked up at him. We were both wrong. He smiled, the real smile she loved, the one that reached his eyes. Yeah, he said. We were. The sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and amber. Grace and Eli stood together, no longer broken by secrets or distance. The past had scarred them, but the future stretched wide and open, full of second chances and hard-won trust. Larkspur Ranch was theirs. Cedar Bend was home. And love, fierce and tested and true, was finally enough. The end.